phenomenon.
Mhm.
If you think about it, you open up the banking app on your phone, right? And you just stare at those glowing digits on the screen.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. And depending on whether that number is, higher or lower than you expected, your actual biology reacts.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely visceral reaction.
It really is. I mean, your heart rate literally changes, your cortisol levels spike or drop. It just feels so incredibly real,
Yeah.
almost as if that digital number is this physical force in the universe that's either holding you up or actively pushing you down.
We really do treat those digits on a screen like they possess some kind of raw intrinsic energy. I mean, think about how we talk about capital. We talk about it as if it were a literal law of physics.
Like it's gravity or something.
Exactly. We say money flows, or we say the market is angry, or, the market is cooling off. It's almost like we are describing thermodynamics.
Well, and that brings us right to today's mission for this deep dive. We are going to completely deconstruct that exact feeling. We're looking at a really fascinating piece of source material today that features a philosophical dialogue. And it basically challenges the entire foundation of modern economics.
It really does. It flips everything on its head.
It argues that human ingenuity, not capital, but human ingenuity is the sole engine of progress. So the material we're unpacking today is going to ask you, the listener, to essentially strip away everything you think you know about wealth.
Which is not an easy thing to do, by the way.
No, definitely not. But we are going to look at what money actually isn't, how we kind of accidentally made it our master instead of our servant, and what would theoretically happen if the entire global financial abstraction just vanished tomorrow.
And that is really the core of what makes this particular deep dive so compelling. The source text challenges you to basically unlearn this deeply ingrained idea that money itself creates value. It argues, quite forcefully I might add, that money is merely a measuring tool. It's just an abstraction. And the human mind, your mind specifically, is the actual literal source of all wealth.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I
Yeah.
think if we really want to strip away the illusions of modern currency, we have to start at the absolute floor.
Yes, the absolute basics.
Right, and looking at the source material, the author insists that we first have to identify what money fundamentally lacks. And to do that, they frame it through these almost, absurdly blunt questions. Questions that just snap you right out of all the complicated financial jargon.
They really do strip away the mystique of complex finance because, when we get lost in the weeds of like derivatives and high-frequency trading.
Analyze debt obligations, all that
Exactly, all that stuff. We forget the underlying reality. The text pulls us way back by just asking, can a dollar bill cure a disease all by itself?
Right.
Can a stack of euros invent a new technology? Or, can a Bitcoin write a poem or discover a new law of physics or feel compassion?
And obviously, the answer is no. You could take $1 billion in gold bullion, lock it in a room with a giant pile of steel and wires, and just leave it there for 1,000 years.
It's just going to sit there.
Yeah. It is never going to spontaneously build a satellite.
Because money has zero intelligence. It has no creativity, no imagination, and absolutely no consciousness. It is, at the end of the day, simply a human invention.
Cool.
Right, a totally neutral tool that we created just to reduce the friction of exchanging actual valuable things, nothing more. But because that tool is so ubiquitous now, we fall into this cognitive trap. We completely blur the line between the tool and the value itself.
I actually find it really helpful to visualize this through the lens of a sports game.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, so think about the scoreboard at a massive basketball arena. The scoreboard is incredibly useful, right?
Go.
It tracks the points. It tells everyone in the arena who is winning. It basically dictates the pacing and the strategy of the entire event.
Sure, you need it to know what's going on.
Exactly. But the scoreboard doesn't actually play the game. The scoreboard has never laced up sneakers, it has never run a fast break, and it has certainly never dunked a basketball.
Right. It's just doing the math.
Yeah, it's literally just a display terminal tracking the physical effort and the actual skill of the human beings down on the court. But what compounds this issue, and this is what I want to challenge you on here, if money is just a scoreboard, why are we so deeply conditioned to mistake it for the game itself?
That is the big question.
Why is the entire world basically sitting in the stands, intensely cheering for the plastic scoreboard instead of the athletes who are doing the actual work?
Well, that abstraction error is arguably the defining feature of our modern society, and the source material addresses that exact trap. It introduces this analogy that I think cuts right to the psychological core of the issue.
The thermometer one, right?
Yes, the thermometer.
Yeah.
So confusing money with value is like believing a thermometer creates heat just because it measures temperature.
Right, or believing a ruler creates distance because it measures length.
Exactly. Money simply measures value in an economy. It absolutely does not create the human abilities or the labor or the raw materials that actually produce that value.
That thermometer analogy is just brilliant.
Hmm.
But I think we should take that a step further because it really highlights the absurdity of our current systems. I mean, you wouldn't put a thermometer in a freezing cold room, hold a lighter to the glass bulb, watch the mercury artificially rise to 70 degrees, and then take off your winter coat thinking the room is warm.
No, you'd freeze to death.
Right. Yet, we do that with economies all the time. We pump billions of newly printed dollars into failing systems and just expect the sheer presence of the measuring tool to somehow magically generate actual innovation and productivity.
And that expectation is exactly where the dynamic flips, which brings us to the historical perspective that the text lays out, because society really did collectively forget the distinction between the thermometer and the heat.
We just totally lost the plot.
We did. Over generations, this amnesia resulted in a complete historical reversal of the master-servant dynamic between human beings and our own currency.
Let's really get into that, because when you actually look back at the grand arc of history, every single major leap forward in human civilization was driven by human cognition, not money. I mean, the human brain wrote the symphonies. The human brain discovered the mathematical principles that built telescopes that can, observe galaxies billions of light years away.
The text is very, very explicit about assigning proper credit here. Money never invented the steam engine.
No.
Money never mapped the human genome, and money never built artificial intelligence. Curious, imaginative humans did every bit of that. The currency merely provided like a logistical framework.
Just organizing things.
Exactly, organizing the food, the shelter, the materials those humans needed while they were doing the actual creating.
Right. It's almost comical when you think about attributing something like the Apollo 11 moon landing to a giant pile of cash.
The cash didn't calculate the orbital mechanics.
Exactly. The cash didn't write the code. But what's fascinating is how quietly this relationship just inverted on us. We originally invented currency to be a servant, right? Like a tool of convenience. So a shoemaker didn't have to carry 50 pairs of shoes to the market just to trade for a cow.
Which is very practical.
Highly practical. But over time, the abstraction became so complex and so powerful that it somehow became the master.
And the psychological shift there is just profound. Today, millions upon millions of people operate under the fundamental belief that without money, literally nothing can happen.
Yeah, we view a lack of funding as a lack of physical capability.
You hear it at every level of government and business, don't you? People say, we can't afford to build that bridge, or we don't have the money to explore that planet.
We say it as if the steel just evaporated into thin air, or as if all the structural engineers suddenly suffered collective amnesia and lost their engineering degrees.
Right, the raw materials are right there.
The human talent is right there.
But we treat the lack of the measuring tool as if it is a lack of raw material. And history tells a completely different story. I mean, every hospital, every school, every bridge, every road, and every scientific laboratory exists solely because a human being imagined it first, and then human labor physically built it.
The true source of wealth has never been paper currency or, digital numbers on a bank server or precious metals pulled from a mine. The true source has always been the human capacity to think, to discover, and to collaborate.
So if human imagination and cooperation are the true engines of progress, the text asks us, and it asks you, listening to this right now, to engage in this massive radical thought experiment.
Well, this is my favorite part of the source material.
It's intense. It asks, what would actually happen if we just smashed the thermometer? What if we pulled the plug on the global money machine entirely?
Okay, lay it out for us.
So, to truly prove that human intelligence is the foundation of wealth, the source material asks us to imagine removing every single currency from Earth tomorrow at noon.
Yeah.
Just gone. Every dollar, euro, yen, and Bitcoin is permanently deleted. The entire global financial system vanishes in an instant. What exactly disappears from the physical world?
Now, wait, I do have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
Because while the philosophical point is super interesting, practically speaking, if you delete all currency tomorrow, society collapses into utter chaos in about 48 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I mean, yes, the doctor still knows medicine and the farmer still knows how to farm, But without the scoreboard, how does the food actually get from the farm to the doctor? How does the electricity stay on in the hospital? Wouldn't the people running the power plant just pack up and go home? Does the text address the absolute logistical nightmare this would cause?
It does, it does. And your pushback is exactly the friction the text wants you to feel, because you have to separate the distribution network from the generative capacity.
Okay, explain that.
The thought experiment isn't arguing that supply chains wouldn't freeze up. They absolutely would. It is pointing out that the underlying assets, the physical realities of the world, remain entirely intact. The text asks, would scientists suddenly forget the scientific method?
Well, no.
Would architects forget how to calculate load-bearing walls?
No, obviously not. The knowledge is completely untouched.
Exactly. The skills, the raw materials, the factories, and the people, they all still exist. The only thing that disappears is the system of exchange.
We would just face a catastrophic organizational crisis.
Precisely. We wouldn't face a fundamental capacity crisis. It's not the human ability to create that vanishes. It's just the historical mechanism we've used to trade our creations.
The heat is still in the room. We just broke the thermometer.
That's exactly it.
And I think this leads right into the developmental psychology aspect of the source material, which honestly I think is the most actionable part of this whole deep dive.
Yeah, this part is fascinating.
The text connects this deep reliance on the measuring tool to the blank slate theory of human development.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that, because if you think about how a child actually learns about the world, no infant is born with a genetic predisposition to care about a 401k or stock portfolio, right?
Definitely not.
They don't inherently know that a crumpled piece of green paper with some politician's face on it has any actual value.
They just observe the how of survival. I mean, a child watches their parents take that green paper and exchange it for food, for shelter, for toys. And because the child's brain is basically just this incredible pattern recognition machine, they misattribute the power.
Right, they draw the wrong conclusion.
They think the paper caused the food to exist, rather than recognizing the immense chain of human agricultural labor that actually produced it.
So they are conditioned to worship the scoreboard from an incredibly young age. But, and this is the empowering realization the text offers, if this dependency on money as the ultimate source of value is just a learned misconception.
Then we can unlearn it.
Exactly. It means we are fully capable of unlearning it. You can hack your own software, so to speak. You can shift your locus of control away from just accumulating the measurement and back toward nurturing the actual source of prosperity, which is your mind.
Which brings us to a massive pivot point in this discussion. I mean, if we can unlearn this, how do we actually redefine what a successful society looks like? How do we measure human progress if we refuse to just stare at the thermometer all day?
To answer that, the source introduces a concept it calls the time traveler.
I love this concept.
It's a great thought experiment. The time traveler asks us to imagine a future, or perhaps a parallel civilization, that evaluates its success through an entirely different set of metrics.
Okay.
What if, instead of tallying up financial wealth and corporate valuations, a society measured its success by its accumulated knowledge, or its preventative health outcomes, the velocity of its scientific progress, and maybe the baseline level of trust among its citizens?
Man, that is a staggering paradigm shift. Just imagine what the evening news would look like in that society. Instead of the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you'd have, like, a human well-being ticker.
Yeah.
You'd track the scientific breakthrough index or the environmental sustainability quotient.
But let's delve into the actual difficulty of that shift, because as we were saying earlier, measuring those things without a financial proxy is incredibly complex. I mean, how do you quantify trust without assigning a dollar amount to it?
Well, I mean, the text suggests you might measure trust by the reduction of friction in a society.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about how much money and time we currently waste on immense legal frameworks, compliance departments, and huge security infrastructure, all just because we fundamentally don't trust each other. A high-trust society wouldn't need a 50-page contract for a basic transaction.
That is a perfect example of what the time traveler would look for. And this civilization would prioritize the overall well-being of every single human being. They would recognize that an uneducated or unhealthy citizen is just a massive loss of generative potential for the entire species.
Right.
The paradox here is that this civilization might technically have vastly smaller bank accounts. Their GDP might be a fraction of ours, but they would be infinitely richer in every metric that actually sustains human flourishing.
The GDP comparison is just so crucial here because our current metric is deeply, deeply flawed. The text uses a great example. If a pristine ancient forest is just standing there, producing oxygen and supporting a complex ecosystem, its contribution to our GDP is exactly zero.
Right, it's worth nothing on the ledger.
But if you chop the entire thing down, process the wood, sell it, and completely destroy the local environment, the GDP goes up. The economy looks, quote-unquote, healthy.
Which is insane.
It is. And the time traveler looks at that dynamic and realizes we are literally liquidating our actual wealth just to make the imaginary numbers on the scoreboard go higher.
We are entirely optimizing for the measuring tool while completely neglecting the source of the value itself. It is a profound institutional failure. The text suggests that the greatest wealth humanity has ever possessed has never actually been stored inside a bank vault at Fort Knox.
No.
It has always been distributed and stored inside the collective human mind. And if we accept that premise, the implications for how we structure our society are just enormous.
Absolutely.
Protecting, developing, and expanding human potential must become the absolute highest priority of any civilization that truly wishes to endure.
So what does this all actually mean for you and me right now? Because we're still living in a world that is very much obsessed with the scoreboard.
Unfortunately, yes.
We still have to pay rent. We still have to buy groceries. We can't just pretend money doesn't exist, right?
No, and the text doesn't ask you to pretend it doesn't exist. It asks you to reframe your relationship to it.
Yeah.
It synthesizes this entire philosophical journey into one really crucial question.
Okay, what is it?
The real question we should be asking ourselves isn't, how do we create more money? The question we must relentlessly ask is, what have we stopped valuing while we've been obsessively measuring the wrong thing?
What have we stopped valuing? Wow. That is really the quiet tragedy of the scoreboard obsession, isn't it? We sacrifice our health, our time with our families, our creative passions, and our peace of mind, all just to accumulate more of the abstraction.
We spend our finite lives polishing the thermometer while the house slowly freezes around us.
That's perfectly put. So to wrap up this deep dive, we have to recognize that we've successfully separated the thermometer from the heat today. We've traced the logic of this source material to prove that paper currency, digital banking numbers, and precious metals, they are not the true source of wealth.
Not at all.
The real wealth, the actual engine of reality, is your own capacity to think, to discover, to synthesize information, and to create.
I would really encourage you to look around your own life today with this new lens. Take a real critical inventory of your existence. Ask yourself what you have created, what you have learned, or what you have built that no amount of currency could ever buy. Look at the relationships you've nurtured. Look at the complex problems you've solved using nothing but your own ingenuity and grit. Look at the skills you've mastered through sheer, unyielding persistence. That is your actual wealth. The money you earned from those things, that was just the exhaust of your own engine.
We really do spend so much energy worrying about protecting our financial assets. We diversify our portfolios, we constantly watch the markets, we panic when the numbers dip. But in doing so, we are aggressively guarding the shadow and completely ignoring the object casting it.
It's so true.
Which brings it all back to you. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. A thought that builds directly on everything we've uncovered in this deep dive. If true wealth is stored exclusively in the human mind, your mind's moon, then investing in your own curiosity, your own knowledge, and your own skills is the only totally secure, unbankruptable asset you will ever own.
Unbankruptable. I love that.
It really is. I mean, unlike a bank account, no stock market crash can ever drain your lived experiences. Hyperinflation cannot devalue your creativity. A global recession cannot wipe out your problem-solving skills. You are the generative force. The economy is just the ledger. So ask yourself, what is one piece of knowledge you can acquire tomorrow that no one will ever be able to take away from you?